President Trump is ramping up pressure to end the government shutdown. He said in an interview with Fox News that Democrats need to vote to open the government before Republicans will negotiate. Yesterday, the House and Senate Democratic minority leaders sent Mr. Trump a letter calling for a bipartisan meeting to fund the government and address healthcare costs. And the FAA says it will start cutting flight capacity by 10% tomorrow if the government shutdown continues. The map on your screen shows airports under consideration for these cuts. There are 40 of them across the country that will be affected. Yesterday afternoon, the FAA administrator said this move is about safety.
We're trying to lean into the fact that when we see pressures building in these 40 markets, we just can't ignore it, and we're not going to wait for a safety problem to truly manifest itself when the early indicators are telling us we can take action today to prevent, things from deteriorating.
CBS News senior transportation correspondent Kris Cleave joins us from Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, one of the many airports impacted. Good morning, Kris. This is going to frustrate thousands of travelers, but as we heard there, this is to keep them safe. How exactly will this work over the next couple of days?
Well, that's still being figured out. This announcement caught the airlines by surprise, and they are now scrambling to implement this order that it sounds like they've not actually even received the formal order from the FAA yet. The understanding that they're operating under now is that they will build to a 10% reduction in capacity at these 40 airports. Starting tomorrow, cuts will be around at least 4%. Then Saturday, 5%, 6% until you get to that 10% number. That ramp up gives them a little bit of time to figure this all out. But the goal for the airlines is to push out the cancellations for Friday later today. What they're trying to avoid is people coming to the airport and being surprised by the fact that their flight has been canceled. One potential, well, I'm not going to call it a silver lining, but maybe a mitigating factor for flyers right now is not a super high volume travel time. The couple of weeks before Thanksgiving tend to be a bit of a lull. So there are open seats to move people around. So the hope is that maybe if your flight's canceled, you're seeing a couple hours of disruption, not being stranded for days.
So folks should keep a close eye on their itineraries in the next 24 to 48 hours. Kris Cleave, thank you. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins us now with the latest from President Trump. Weijia, good morning. With airports restricting travel, there are so many more people who'll be frustrated this weekend than last weekend, and there were many last weekend. So how is the president's strategy changing on what is now day 37 of the country's longest government shutdown?
Good morning, Arrow. Good morning to everybody. The strategy for President Trump has not changed in practice. So far, he has not said that he would formally meet with Democratic leaders or all the congressional leaders as he did before the shutdown to try to work out a deal. But there has been a clear shift in the sense of urgency, which is now renewed following election night and Republican losses. The president acknowledged that the shutdown was hurting Republicans, even though he says it ought to be hurting Democrats, because he says they are to blame, even though they are not getting enough of the blame for this now historic close of the federal government. So he is urging Republicans to do something about it. He actually wants them to take matters into their own hands by eliminating the filibuster. What that means is by changing the rules in the Senate when it comes to voting so that a simple majority would be enough to pass most legislation, including a bill to reopen the government, instead of the 60 votes that are currently required. But we did hear from Senate Majority Leader John Thune yesterday, who said the support for that, the votes to change that rule, simply is not there right now, at least. So we will see if the president continues to push for that. But, Errol, regardless of what happens in the next few days, one thing is clear. The president wants the government to reopen.
And we'll see how that can manifest itself. Weijia Jiang at the White House with the latest.